Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is a review of the Sigma 17-40 f1.8 art lens for cropped sensor cameras. You can think of this as the successor to the very popular Sigma 18-35 1.8 that was a great lens for stills and video on DSLR cameras, but now we're going from 17-40 at 1.8 for mirrorless bodies. This lens is available on Sony E-mount, Fuji X-mount, Canon RF mount, which is this one that I used for the review. You do not have it for Nikon's Z mount at this time, but you do have it for the
L-mount Alliance.
So this lens is available pretty much across the board. Now remember, Sigma has three different types of lenses, lines of lenses. You have your contemporary, you have your sport, and you have your art. Art is considered to be their highest end, which normally aren't really in the zoom range. They used to first come out in the prime lens range, but now they ventured into the zoom area. So what did I shoot? Well, I took it out to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, where I took it inside and outside. We got to say hello to Rocky while I was out there. I took it to a baseball game to shoot before the game to use it more in a photojournalistic aspect type of way. And I also took it out to the park where I photographed a kid along with his mother, who is an expecting mother soon, so I will have another kid to photograph for the next couple of years. Now let's get into the outside of the lens. The first thing you notice is that this is a very nice feeling lens. Something to keep in mind is that with the zoom range, you've got your 17-40, but what you are not seeing is it extend beyond the barrel. This is an internal zooming lens, which means it's not just great for stills, but if you're someone who's shooting video on crop sensor, Sony's, Fuji's, Canons, not Nikon's, and of course the L mount, well, it's going to be a very good run and gun lens, especially when you throw it on a gimbal when you are shooting video. Now, to put this into perspective, this is Sigma's 18-50 2.8. It's a heck of a lot smaller, and also it is an external zooming lens, but we'll talk about this in terms of price when we get to the end and talk about the price of this bad boy right here. Now, in terms of dials, being that this is the RF one, I've got a control dial back here, but on the Sony and the other versions, you would have your aperture ring right here. Of course, Canon lets you control that and set it to whatever you want to set it for. You've got your zoom, as I said, right here, 17-40, and you have your manual focus ring right here. You have two custom buttons, and you have focus on and off. So basically your manual and autofocus. You do not have a switch for image stabilization because there is no image stabilization in this lens at all, which is something you need to keep in mind if you are shooting with a body that doesn't have image stabilization, like one of these Canon V series bodies, because they don't have image stabilization in them, which means if you're shooting video, you might have to put on that super digital stabilization, which is gonna crop in even further. Now, speaking of cropping, let's talk about the zoom range that you get in equivalent of 35mm. You have a 25-60mm. Now, I know this is a 1.8 lens, but it acts more like a 2.8 when it comes to the background blur when you're shooting on a crop sensor body. Of course, 1.8 means you're gathering a lot of light, but when you're shooting at 1.8 with the crop sensor, that gives you more of the effect of what a 2.8 right around would be on a full frame body. Now, for Canon shooters, you're looking at a 27mm to 64mm equivalent. The reason is Canon's crop sensors are at 1.6 magnification, where most of the other manufacturers are at 1.5. This is a tremendous range, a great catch-all range for running and gunning, for photojournalistic work, for birthday parties, to running around outside. Not going to be great for sports, but a very competent lens all the way around. So here's a little tip if you're ever coming to Philly. Everybody runs up the Rocky stairs, which are the art museum stairs, at the front of the museum. I like to take it from behind. So I go up the back stairs into the back entrance. There's a statue at the back. I shot the statue at the back of the museum at 17 millimeters, and from the same spot zoomed in to show you what 40 millimeters would give you. But because the sun was up in the sky right there and peeking out from around the building, I was like, let's point it back and see what type of flare we end up getting. And I don't see the flare, I see just a little bit of light. It actually looks like it's coming out of the palm of the hand of the statue. I honestly was trying to see up the skirt of the statue to see if they were wearing any underwear, but I couldn't tell if they were wearing underwear or not. So you can see what you get with 17. Same thing when I took it out to the baseball game upstairs. You've got what you have at 17, and you also have what you have at 40. So that is the range that you get with this lens. It's very close to that 24 to 70 equivalent. It's not as long and it's not as wide, but on a crop sensor camera, it's doing a very good job. And to have an art lens like this is definitely a win if you can afford it. Let me jump in here real quick because I want to show you FroPack 4 in action on this photo right here, taken with a Canon, starting with Blue's Clues, followed by Brooklyn, C41, Copper Tone, High C, Kaleidoscope, Mel Brooks, Saltwater Taffy, Thick, Tintype, and Wet Hot American Summer. But check this out, my all-time favorite from FroPack 1 is Skittles. With one click of a button, we go boom. But check this out, exclusive and all new to FroPack 4, we've got 4 custom adaptive Lightroom presets that include Face Enhance, Full Body Enhance, Eye Only Enhance, as well as Background Blur. So look, if you want to speed up your raw workflow, give yourself a great starting point, or you're just tired of other people's presets sucking, ours don't suck. We've created 14 all-new custom Lightroom presets that you can check out right now at froknowsphoto.com/FroPack4. While you're over there, you can play with the sliders to see the befores and the afters, and if you decide to pick them up right now, they are currently on sale. Or if you want to get the Grand Slam bundle that includes FroPack 1, 2, 3, and 4, and of course Skittles, you will save even more. Now, let's get back to the video. Now, in terms of weight, is it heavy to carry around? Well, it weighs in at 18.9 ounces or 529 grams. It's a lot heavier than the 18 to 52.8 Sigma, but it's not a very heavy lens. Now, you can see that if you were to put it onto something like this Canon V series, it does stick out quite a long way because the bodies are much smaller. Just keep that in mind if you're going to be running and gunning on a gimbal, but this is not a heavy lens or a cumbersome lens, but it is bigger than the other options that are out there that aren't 1.8s. You are paying for that 1.8 and the build quality and the fast focus and the bokeh that you end up getting. Now, speaking of background bokeh, I have a couple of examples of what you have at 1.8 as well as 2.8 when I was upstairs in the medieval section of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. As you can see from the wider shot of the horse's head, look at the background stained glass. You can see at 1.8, it is more blurry than it is at 2.8. And the same thing when I'm zoomed in on the horse as well. You can see the background difference from 1.8 to 2.8. So we're talking about the difference of the blur of the background. 1.8 is still gathering the 1.8 light. So it's not changing there because 1.8 is 1.8, whether it's crop sensor, micro four thirds, your cell phone, it's still 1.8. But what we're talking about here is what you get with the background blur, and that's going to be more prevalent with a lens like this. Now, if you're using a lens like this and you're in Lightroom or wherever you're editing the images and you look at the files and you're like, wait, why are they bowing? Why do the stairs look like they're smiling at me, or why does it have a fisheye look? Well, that's because you do not have digital lens correction on. This lens is built with digital lens correction in mind to correct for that, and that's just what every manufacturer is doing today. Sometimes I actually turn off digital lens correction because I like a slight bow in the image, but for the most part, the idea is that it's meant to straighten out the lines to give you a much more pleasing image. Now, keep in mind that's really if you're just shooting with RAW files, because when you're shooting JPEGs, it's more than likely going to be baked in and you'll never know the difference. Even when you're on Canon and you're shooting RAW, when you have the lens on the body, what you're seeing in the preview is the corrected version, not the uncorrected. Now, I did run into a slight issue when I was trying to focus on one of the stairs in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I got close, I got low, and I'm like, why isn't it focusing? I thought maybe it was too dark, but it turns out that the close focusing distance is 11.1 inches. And I was like, well, that's a pretty long way. I would expect it to be better than that. And that's 11 on the wide end. So just keep in mind, if you're gonna try and get close to a subject, you might need to be, well, you need to be outside of that 11.1 inches in order to do so. Now, for those of you who care about how many aperture blades the lens has, this one has 11 blades, which is usually only reserved for the more premium lenses. The less expensive lenses usually have less blades. In this case, more premium lens, it does have more blades. Now, no visit to the Philadelphia Museum of Art would be complete without going to see my painting. This one, that's actually Monet's, and I like to say that I banged it out with some Skittles. I put preset Skittles on there from FroPack 1 because I always think that Monet's need a little bit more punch. Now let's head out to the park where I was photographing a kid along with his mother, who is an expecting mother, because right here you can totally see, what am I at? I'm at 23 millimeters at 1.8. I shot it at 1.8 the whole time on the Canon EOS R7, but you've got the little kid resting on his mother's belly where you can see she's very pregnant and she's gonna have a baby soon. And it's just one of those images that when you can capture this, the mother and the family and everybody, they're gonna look back and be like, wow. You know, as the kids get 10, 20, 30 years old, these are the memories that you look back on and you're like, that is an awesome image. Let me cut in here real quick and let you know that this video is brought to you by Squarespace. If you're looking to build your very own online portfolio, use what I've been using for an extremely long time now for my personal website at jaredpolin.com, because it's simple, easy, affordable, and I don't need to know any coding, and I can sell my work right there through Squarespace stores. To get your 14-day free trial, head on over to squarespace.com/FronosPhoto. If you decide that it's for you, use the code FronosPhoto at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Now, let's get back to the video. This kid loves to ride around the park on his little scoot, and he definitely likes to perform for the camera at this point. So how is the autofocus with this lens? Well, you have those HLA motors, the focus motors. It's very fast. On the Canon EOS R7, didn't feel like I was missing at all. And truthfully, with just about every system that you can put this lens on, they all can find the eye, they all can track very well, and I think you're gonna be very happy with the results you get from the autofocus of this lens. I had no problem tracking the kid as he was scooting around, running around. It just made focusing much easier, especially with the technology inside of all of these cameras. Now, no review during baseball season would be complete without me taking this out to the ballpark to shoot a pre-game where we had batting practice, we had kids hanging around getting autographs, and honestly, when you see a bucket of balls, you gotta take a picture of the bucket of balls. There's so many opportunities to just find images that aren't players playing baseball. That's why I was able to shoot the wide angle of a bucket of balls, just so that you can get the look of that, as well as zoomed in on the bucket of balls, so you could see that the sharpness is beautiful and perfect right on their official Major League Baseball. You can see the colors are nice and poppy, the sharpness is very nice, as you would expect. But where this lens shines, and a lot of lenses don't on crop sensor, is that the 17 is pretty wide, giving you that 24, 25 millimeter equivalent, or 26 on the Canon in this case. And you can see that I kept the entire manager in there. This is a nice moment to capture. He's nice and framed from the people on the left that are out of focus and the people on the right, and everybody holding out their recorders. This is one of those shots that I really like. But you can also step back to the outside of this pile of writers interviewing the manager, and you can still zoom in and capture the coach talking. You just have to work your angles and get close, but this is a very nice and versatile lens. So who is this lens for? This is for someone that is die-hard and sticking with crop sensor bodies. I know I talk harshly about crop sensors. That doesn't mean you can't get great results, as you saw right here, and I'm sure many of you have gotten great results with crop sensor as well. The point is that this is a $919 lens. So that's a lot of money to spend if you think you're going to end up going full frame. Because then you've spent $919 and this isn't going with you to a full frame body. So keep that in mind. But if you're happy where you are with crop sensors and you want the best premium option that you can get for a pretty much catch-all lens when it comes to stills as well as video and the quality that you get with the 1.8 and the focus motors, you can't go wrong with this. But you have to decide, is it worth $919 versus something like this, which has gone up to $660. It's not as premium. It's a 2.8. It's gonna get the job done, but you just have to think, do I want to save some money? Because when I decide to go full frame or sell and upgrade to something else, you should be able to get rid of this lens and still get some money out of it. But there are two tests that are extremely important. We've got the wind tunnel test and the sniff test. Let's look at the sniff test first. And by look at, let's sniff it. Ooh, it smells like just let your soul glow. Just let it glow on me, yeah. Smells like Soul Glow. I should know because I have Soul Glow. But now the wind tunnel test. We're gonna huff and puff and see what happens. It's stoic. It's staying there. It's like a statue at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and it passes. At the end of the day, this is a solid follow-up to the 18 to 35 1.8. You can't go wrong. It is a solid quality lens. What do you think about it? Is this something that you would pick up? Let me know down below. Thank you very much for watching. Jared, PolinFroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.